We're starting. Sort of. In a couple minutes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for your faith in me, Julie. I'm way ahead of it. This morning, Lady B and I got up and checked in early on this stuff. Carl, are you watching on a phone from the march, or is the march later here? I forget. We mentioned it last week, but I was completely out of my mind. I was in total show mode. This is me wearing my computer glasses. They aren't for seeing, they're for not getting your eyes burned out. All right. Is there a blue? So when you're sitting at a computer for a long time, you don't hurt your eyes. I'm getting wise. Excellent, Carl. Yes, I was chewing. I apologize. Hi, Carrie. Happy birthday, EO. That's right. You were going to Orange County for yours, for Santa Ana, right? I don't know, that's why this always gets knocked over. Always seems to do that, and I don't understand why. Need some blue blockers. Yeah. Oh, Hal Vickery. Was listening in my car last week, and here's 2 weeks worth of 6. Oh, thank you so much, Hal Vickery. That's amazing. That's so weird because, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 times 2 is 6, and then one more at the front, so that would be 666 as well, even though it's 1332. Fabulous. It's just so curious, the whole thing.
Hal, I have Matt. He's at the Union Park right now for the march.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a time you want him to call in?
Matt Cummings?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he can call me in the first block if he wants to.
Okay. He said he's gonna find some people to talk about it.
Okay, well then, if you want, then have him call at the half hour, after the half hour break.
Okay.
At the quarter,
right.
At our third segment, because that way he can give time to gather, and we can kind of build up to what, to talking to him.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you don't happen to have the audio of Trump's meeting with the Prince of Saudi Arabia?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
Exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the bind.
Well, hey, everybody. It is great to be with you on this, I would say, historic day. Marches going on all over the country against gun violence and in support of sensible gun regulations, headed, of course, by the Parkland kids are kind of the driving force behind this. I think ultimately the question is why them, why now, and I think it really genuinely boils down to the last time we had a bunch of high schoolers that were killed in mass. It was, it happens consistently, but that was such a number like Columbine kind of level numbers. There was so much shock around it. Even, I guess, just leading up to this point, there was so much shock about the event, about the experience, that people were so overwhelmed with grief that they never got to the anger stage until the moment had passed politically. And that did not happen this time, mainly because we had just had in the last year, we had shootings at a church, we had the Vegas shooting, we had similar people committing similar crimes in varying environments. And when it finally hit a school full of teenagers, by then there was enough anger built up about the last shooting. And, every time there's a school shooting, every time there's a workplace shooting, every time somebody does something like the Vegas shooting, there is always this pushback from the right wing, from the Republicans, from the NRA especially, that says it's too early. It's too early, to politicize this event. It's too early. And my answer, because we have so many of them, is I'm not politicizing this one. I'm politicizing the last one. This just overlaps. Because quite frankly, there are enough mass shootings in our country that you could be pissed about the one 6 shootings ago. You could be politically active about one that happened 2 years ago, because the people who were killed are still dead. And this idea that gets floated around, that's driven by this mishmash online of the NRA, these sovereign citizens movements, Alex Jones, and his Pizzagate shooter, and this sort of tyrannical government left over from Obama, that Obama was going to take your guns. Remember Obama was going to take your guns the whole time? Remember? And by the way, during the Obama years, none of the laws that have passed recently passed. So Trump's in the White House, Republicans in control of both houses of Congress, and we're actually getting some gun laws finally, and they're doing it holding their nose. So the irony with the NRA's messaging is, that's for another day. But this constant phrase we've always heard is that it's too soon to politicize. This is politicizing. And first of all, when you're talking about something that only really has a political solution, politicizing something is actually doing the work of fixing it. That's the other maddening thought. Is like, politicians try to jump in here and think they're going to solve it with legislation. Well, that's their job. That's their remedy. If there's another remedy, that's for people who do other jobs. Like police have a remedy. They arrest people who have illegal guns. They kill shooters when they can. Most of the time it's too late. They arrest people after the fact and charge them like they did in the case of Nicholas Cruz. But their job is from the crime on. That's understand that police act after the crime has been committed, or if someone is in the process of planning a crime and you could make a conspiracy case or what have you. But most of the time, their job is to deal with it after, and they certainly can't do anything if there's no law against it. And in the case of the Parkland shooter, the Vegas shooter, arguably Sandy Hook, there's nothing in this, I tweeted this week, but it seems to be this constant, like, why are law-abiding gun owners being, tortured in this way? Why are they being persecuted by, the banning of bump stocks and the inability to buy a combat weapon for use on American soil on your fellow citizens? And their idea is, why are we, as law-abiding gun owners, as lawful gun owners, why are we being tormented in this way? Well, in all of these cases that I've mentioned, the Vegas shooter, Sandy Hook, the Parkland shooter, we've lost 72 kids since. Most of the shooters, if not all of them, were lawful gun owners until they shot the first kid. They were lawful gun owners when they packed that gun in a bag or strapped it to their chest, walked across their lawn, got in their car or hid it in a bag while they took a bus or took a car, drove to the site where they were going to murder people, walked up to the door, opened it, and started shooting. Up until the second the bullet left the chamber, they were a lawful gun owner. And unless you want to interrupt that pattern, that part of the pattern, by minimizing the damage that people can do, then everything you say about this is meaningless. It's just we all know the NRA is a lobbying group for gun manufacturers. The idea is to scare people into buying more guns because it's profitable. Period. End of story. They are not protectors of the Second Amendment. They're doing more damage to the Second Amendment through all this nonsense, through this, every, kindergartner should have a bazooka nonsense. And with their completely tone deaf and emotionally vacuous advertisements featuring Dana Loesch and other, hosts on the NRA TV channel, app, whatever you watch it on, the message they put forth is so, first of all, immoral, but sort of amoral and devoid of emotion, quite frankly, devoid of recognition of damage done. To the point where half of the hosts on NRA TV sound like they're threatening the kids right now that are marching because they're tired of having to worry about getting shot while going to school. When I went to high school in Chicago, I went to New Trier, and we got locked down when Lori Dan went on her shooting rampage. And I believe she killed 7 people that day. And we were locked in the school. We couldn't go anywhere. It was a bizarre feeling. It was, we didn't really feel threatened because our school was like a fortress in a lot of ways. But she was, we knew she was coming down Green Bay Road was the idea. Like, we were hearing all these reports while we were locked in school that there's a woman with a gun. She shot some kids. She shot, I forget whether at that point she had shot the people she'd come to met in the house where she holed up for a minute. And then the idea was, the story was, she was heading towards our school. She was walking south, heading towards us, and she was shooting. And that's all we knew about it. And we figured, by the time, within probably 20 minutes of her march down there were cops surrounding our high school because we were in her path. But that didn't stop her from killing the kids she shot already. There were no ramifications to her purchasing a gun, getting licensed to carry one around, having one around in the house. It was an absurdity at that point. This is pre-Columbine. School shootings were sort of in their infancy still. Then they became an industry. They became, at this point, almost hack. This kind of like, you half expect it. We emotionally are guarded against the damage that it does. But these kids at Parkland experienced it, and it hit a sweet spot of the sorrow and the damage done to human beings right in front of them, matched with the motivation to take action to finally put an end to this so that no one ever has to feel this. And this is as much about the maturity of the Parkland students. It is as much about that as it is about the maturity of the American people about the expectations of what can be done in the face of mass shootings. And the NRA is now sort of getting the message in some ways that not everybody is on board. Not everybody is afraid of them. And so what they are doing is they're ratcheting up the fear about this thing. And Matt Cummings from our station is down at the march in Chicago. He's going to be calling us after the half hour, and he's talking to some people who are there, seeing what their motivations are, what the turning point was for them. But this is something I always say when I'm dealing in projects, and whether it's working with a band or putting together a project in the industry, and you find that there's somebody who wants to like add a level of difficulty for no particular reason, is that life is hard enough. Life is difficult enough. Life has enough stuff to throw at you, from car accidents to cancer to economic downturns and sexual assaulters who get elected president. You don't need the extra fear point of worrying whether a local tyrant with a mass of weapons decides that day he supersedes the democracy, has anointed himself king, and is about to destroy some of the serfs he doesn't like. Because we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about this idea that gets pushed all around, which is this idea that you need assault weapons, you need combat weapons to fight, quote, the tyranny of the government, the tyrannical government that's coming for you. Because it's basically created tyrants all around us. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. This isn't the only thing that happened this week, by the way. All right.
I have that audio you want from Trump's speech in Saudi Arabia, right?
No, it's him talking. It's if you can see the video of it, he's holding up these placards in front of the Crown Prince, and he's talking about the weapons we just sold to them. I'll try and find it because I tweeted it a couple days ago, but it's really specific. It's just so amazingly dumb.
Okay.
God, it is. I mean, like, he's embarrassing, but this was like off the charts. I couldn't even grasp how ridiculous. There is a quote from Trump about DACA. The Republicans are with you. The Democrats fought us. If you can find that one, that ABC News Politics put that one up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's about president's remarks on DACA. The Dems are against you. Kind of. Oh my God. I'll scroll back through and find this because and God knows, with all the stuff that's been going on, it feels like 100 years ago. Think they're going to try to fire Mueller tomorrow because of Stormy Daniels' 60 Minutes interview? Yeah. Jesus. Dowd left. Like, so much stuff happened this week, you guys. Water is dry and the desert is wet, yeah. Sessions can't fire Mueller. He's recused himself. Rod Rosenstein would have to do it. And so Trump would have to fire Rod Rosenstein to fire Mueller. And I don't see that happening. I think he's up against a wall about it. But...
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Okay, I found the audio of Trump welcoming the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia to the White House. I want to play that in a little bit. It is probably the most embarrassing behavior Trump has shown in front of another world leader. Even his kowtowing and kind of huggy feelings with Putin seem to I'll play it in a minute, but it's stunning. But I want to talk for a second about this idea of the tyrannical government, because you hear this all the time from the right wing that, man, you're gonna need these weapons when the government comes for you. Okay, first of all, if the government is coming for you in the year 2018, they really don't need rifles. I mean, beyond like microwaves that make you feel like you're on fire from 500 yards away, to tear gas, number of things, that the government has as its options, non-lethal and lethal means, that it really does not matter. It's absurd. I mean, when local police departments are getting military tank-like gear, it's not even about the government at this point. Boss Hogg could come for you and roll a tank onto your lawn half the time. So this, this bizarre hearkening to the Wild West that one day you're going to have to take up arms against your own government, it's not surprising that the Russians fed that message repeatedly to the and that was one of the messages they bolstered, why they put money through the NRA into the RNC, why they have supported gun rights messaging in the United States, even though Russian gun rights laws are draconian by comparison. They really push this idea. You can't trust your government. One day they're, this is the Alex Jones idea of FEMA camps under Obama, that they were going to round up conservatives. We heard it for 8 years. They talked about how the government was going to round up everybody, and the coffins, the plastic coffins that the U.S. government had gathered, because after Katrina, when there were so many bodies that putting them in bags, they harmed the other bodies when they were stacked, when they would, if they rolled over on each other. It was horrifying. And they recognized that if you had a major earthquake, another hurricane that had a certain situation like this, you would need something hard-shelled that you could stack to protect these bodies, both to investigate what killed them afterwards, so you don't have like the Houston shootings that happened during the storm, that people tried to hide it as, the murders that they tried to hide under storm damage, but also respectfully to the families who are receiving the remains of their loved ones, that if there's a chance at an open coffin, ceremony or anything, they should at least have that, right? They should at least have that option. And but what did Alex Jones turn that into? The government's just printing coffins so they can snuff conservatives and throw them into the sea, I suppose, or something. Like, first of all, I mean, it boggles the mind. Like, of course, why would you even bother to box them up if you're doing some sort of mass murdering kind of thing? You would dig a mass grave, or you would dump them into the sea, or what? Like, it only takes like 8% of your own evil brain to think for a second why that's a stupid plan and why it never would have worked. But this is what they've been pushing. This has been, that instead of FEMA doing something good for the families and loved ones of the people who were killed in instances where lots of people die, like floods and earthquakes and fires and such, that instead of going, wow, we need something more structurally sound to protect these bodies, they went, this is proof that your tyrannical government is going to come and shoot you and throw you in a ditch. And so it drives this idea that one of these days you're going to need to stack up all these guns in your basement and shoot out the windows towards police cruisers and cops and soldiers and National Guard who are going to show up magically because of your political beliefs, which you are being persecuted for. You're going to need these guns to shoot your fellow citizens. And which is, I mean, that this is, by the way, the messaging of the right. Because if you believe what their message is, what the right will tell you, it's that from the Black Panthers to Saul Alinsky and the Weather Underground or whatever, the left is completely eaten up with this idea that the government, needs to be destroyed, that capitalism's so evil that we need to burn the country down from the inside, and it's all about revolution. And but in fact, these are the folks that end up being the stockpilers. These are the people who end up being the preppers. The mother of the Sandy Hook shooter was one of these people. She was expecting somewhere between, a zombie horde of gay minorities, and jackbooted robots coming to her door to enforce gender neutral pronouns. Like, this is like these people with this idea that the solution is the firing of guns at military and police officers. That's what a combat weapon is for. A combat weapon is not for self-defense, because if you need to fire that many bullets to defend yourself, in most cases you're the bad guy, unless you're actually in the military in a combat zone, or you're a police officer and there's a bank robbery on the level of the movie Heat happening, and you're in charge of fighting back against this. So this idea that you're going to need a combat weapon to defend yourself, if you say that, what you mean is one day I'm going to need to shoot cops and soldiers. One day the government's going to come for me, so therefore I'm going to need to open fire. By the way, support our vets, support our troops. But if they have to come for me because I'm selling illegal sawed-off shotguns or munitions, or I'm running a meth lab or what have you, I'm going to need to open fire on my fellow citizens who are put in, even though, by the way, you still have a legal remedy. The Bundy Ranch guys didn't go to jail. They went through they had a legal remedy. They never had to really fire a shot. They didn't. The dudes who died for no purpose, because the other ones were arrested, went through the process, and basically walked with probation, essentially. Cliven Bundy was illegally grazing his animals as a corporation on public lands, not paying for it. And when the police came to enforce it, like, hey, these are public lands, they belong to everybody. If you're going to graze on them, you need a license like everybody else has to. You're not special, pal. His answer was to put a line of women in front of him and have snipers on a bridge pointing at cops' heads. These are the people who are fighting for the rights to have combat weapons for quote-unquote hunting or self-defense. It's, and believe me, there are rare instances where having these weapons might be worthwhile to you. But laying a check or a balance in there won't affect your ability to get these things. If you're not nuts or a danger to your family or have a history of violent abuse. We got to take a break. When we come back, I think Matt's going to be calling in from the march in Chicago. We'll talk to him and some of the people that he has there. And then, by the way, the president signed a bill yesterday that put $1 trillion on the debt with a stroke of the pen by order of his own party. $1.3 trillion budget, $1 trillion added to the deficit. What were these guys voted in to do? Who are the Republicans supposed to be? Who's a better shepherd of smaller government? What? We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Brad, that was the fact that it's okay to research gun violence was snuck into the bill. Some Dems and some moderate Republicans got wise and just stuffed the bill. Carrie, are you quoting Catholic priests again? These young people are fantastic. Oh, yeah, a lot was snuck in. The National Endowment for the Arts was fully funded. This is how little attention they paid. Sorry, Carl. Oh, can't stop lying. That, so I mean, he was like it was like a joke. It was like they're like, look at this toddler. Who is this idiot? The look on their face was frigging embarrassing. I mean, he's holding up these things like we're like America's only purpose is an arms dealer. Rand Paul was right to read it. I felt like he was doing a House Park. Well, yeah. I tried to download the damn thing, but it kept, the download kept freezing. I'm like, are they adding to it while I'm doing it? What the hell? I love these marches are also voter registration drives. I know, Carrie, here's the thing. Like, it infuriates me that you are not automatically registered to vote via your social security number at 18. It's silly. Oh, you're more than welcome, Carl. I had a lovely time with you guys. One of the Parkland survivors just had her windblower speech off the podium. Downloaded the budget. Takes more than a Stormy Daniels scene. That's right. It's all on a big CD-ROM. I agree it should be a holiday, Jamie. I completely agree. We are the premier democracy in the world. We invented the damn thing. We should have the most, and here's the thing. You wouldn't have to make it a federal holiday. You could make it a state holiday. And so, this conglomerations of states that are fighting back against the Electoral College that says if we're going to go with we're going to go with whatever the popular vote is. There's similar work that could be done, quite frankly, with people who are doing, if governors wanted to create a state holiday, a state bank holiday, or a state work holiday. It's completely reasonable. They rarely do it. Most of the time, they're just for show. It's friggin' ice cream day or whatever the hell.
10 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Do we have Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Matt, our beloved station commander, as I like to refer to him, is at the march in Chicago and is calling in right now. Matt, do we have you? Are you with us? Do we have him? I hope so. There he is. Yes, I can. How goes it? It sounds noisy, I'll give you that. Are you there? Speeches are going on. We can hear that. That's good. It's pretty choppy. Lady B, let's try to, let's take him off and try to get him back a little cleaner, because I don't know that he can hear me. So we'll try and fix that. Here's the thing, I want to remind people as the show goes on, because we're also going to deal with the fact that they passed this enormous budget, that the president acted like a jackass in front of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia this week. He fired / allowed to retire with no dignity John Dowd, his attorney, the one who was keeping him from crap-talking Mueller at every term, or was trying to, and failed miserably. The man who, by the way, threw himself on the grenade of the tweet about Mueller. I forget what the actual wording of it was, but it was one of those where Trump accidentally allowed, like he basically admitted that he knew that the FBI had problems with Mike Flynn, and before he should have, to the point where he was literally lying. And so Dowd had to say, no, I wrote that on the president's account. Like, this is how this guy was literally willing to let himself get disbarred. Everybody is jockeying to be this guy's Roy Cohn. Yes. Do we have him?
I have. Yes,
oh, great.
Matt coming.
Okay, cool. Hey, Matt. There you are. Do we have you a little better?
Well,
there you are.
So I'm just going to talk about what's going on here.
Great.
We're at March for Our Lives. I'm at the Indivisible Weapons tent. A couple young ladies here we want to talk to you about. But there's thousands of people here crowded in. So I'm going to hand my head over to Karima. Who's going to talk to you about why she's here and what's going on. Hang on.
Perfect. Yep. Hi.
I'm basically here because I don't think that I have to sit up this year for my brother's position. And gun violence that's going on in America, like, it's not getting any better. It's getting so much worse. And I think that, like, as a teenager in America, a lot of people think that we don't have a say-so with what goes on. But I think right now this generation is maybe one of the most powerful ever when it comes to legislation. And so I'm here because I think that it's time for a change. It's ridiculous that I should have to worry about walking down the street by myself, or I should have to worry about my brothers if they're going to be safe in school. Everyone deserves to be safe no matter where they come from and where they live. Because right now, with the gun laws that we have now, it's just isn't happening. So I'm here to make a change.
Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. It was a little jockeyed, but we heard her point clearly. Can you hear me, Matt?
He's gone.
Okay, gotcha. Well, let him know that we did hear that. It was a little dicey audio wise, but she's saying what we're hearing a lot of these kids say, which is it's ridiculous that they have to worry about this while they go, while they're dealing with everything else and just trying to grow up, be kids, find their place in the world. That, oh, by the way, always look over your shoulder. This is one of those issues that as an advanced society, we should have solved long ago. There was a purpose. Okay, one of the reasons, by the way, we have armies in the first place is because at certain points, groups, societies, tribes decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to advance to the point we need to, raising crops, building a society, raising children, if we keep getting attacked from the outside. If the tribe over the hill, which seems hell-bent on killing us, or anybody else who has some good grassland or enough sheep, if they can keep coming over here and killing us, we'll never make any ground. We'll never advance as a society. So we need a standing group around us. We need warriors around us, creating a perimeter so that we can move upward instead of just outward. And this is actually how most societies were created over time. And it's certainly how they all developed some form of military presence. All tribes have some form of this, whether it's, by the way, against another tribe or a particular wild animal or a super pack of wolves, what have you. There was a definite design around every tribal society that said, you know what, eventually we're going to have to stop fighting amongst ourselves, create a perimeter wherein the inside of this, we can focus on something else other than sleeping with one eye open with our hand on our knife at all times. And if we don't, we will always be in a tribal system. We will never grow past this point. And the societies that were able to advance the fastest often built these perimeters, and then within the perimeter limited the ability for everybody to kill themselves down to, okay, if you're going to kill somebody, you're going to have to choke them to death with your bare hands. Because we don't need an insurrection from the inside while we're all trying to just get on with our lives. When the United States was formed, we had traitors among us who were still loyal to the king, that at some point were going to rise up, and basically your neighbor could have been loyal to the crown. And he and a bunch of his buddies could have decided, okay, a week from Wednesday, when everybody's, comes into your tea shop, we're all going to open fire on the 6 or 10 people that really matter, that run the town, kill them all, and then we'll take this town back. And we've got messages going to all these other people that'll do the same. So the idea was that if everybody had a musket, even the guys who fall back could fight back against these people if the king ever decided to retake the United States. That's not going to happen now. That version of events around which the Second Amendment was crafted, that's not going to happen. When anything even remotely like that ever happens, it's not going to happen in that framework. So meanwhile, while we've been stockpiling weapons that basically everybody, ultimately, the having of them and not using them seems to drive them towards the murderous thoughts driven by boredom, that a mixture of Adderall and coffee drives up the racist hyperbolic notions in people's brains to the point where that mix with a gun or maybe some SSRIs, in the mix, or simply just a disdain for your fellow human being, driven by the paranoia of the wrong brand of weed or your own YouTube hole you get caught in of videos that you're watching, whatever is your primary focus that's making you paranoid about your fellow citizen, that's actually where the cracks will come, and where they have. I mean, if you look at how Cambridge Analytica and what we found out about them this week, and what the Russians have been, pushing, those divisions in our society, that's where the crack is. That's where the separation point is. That's where the damage can be done. Not in one day, SWAT teams will show up marching down the street, wiping people out. It is unthinkable. And the irony that the people who are the most, the very people who during the Iraq War could not stop yellow ribboning trees and saying support the troops, and Democrats, because they don't want to go to war in Iraq, don't support our troops. That whole messaging falls apart when you know that the NRA types and all the people who are, calling for the need for these kind of weapons are for the shooting. What was his name? The bald dude from Watergate who had his own show, who's like, how to shoot a jackbooted thug. G. Gordon Liddy. G. Gordon Liddy was describing in the 90s how you kill a soldier when the police come, how you kill a SWAT team member, where to shoot them. That's what this is about. That's what those weapons are about. And what you have is that pathology, that madness, that bloodlust around the idea that one of these days I'm going to get to use this gun on another human being, and I will be justified in doing it because of the persecution I feel in my tiny little head, mixed with guns are toys. This is the most frightening aspect of the second part of this, because, and I'll tell you, somebody who's been to like these Vegas machine gun shooting places, my girlfriend and I went. I've shot guns my entire life, that the big noise that comes from them, there's a visceral kick from it. There's an adrenaline thrill that you get when you're firing these things. So the idea is that once you have these things in your hand, there's a tendency to normalize them over time and recognize that, this is fun. It's like a game. It's like, you're playing cops and robbers, but you're playing it in a, on a gun range, an indoor, lead dust filled, unventilated, more than likely gun range where you're poisoning your children with your own clothing. See the documentary I'm doing this summer on lead about that. But mixed, the mixture of this, one day I'm going to have to rise up like Waco or Ruby Ridge or the Bundys and shoot some cops who come for quote unquote my land, mixed with guns are fun. These two mixtures are the poison right now in the United States, because understand this, having a gun or firing a gun for its primary use, which is the taking of another human being's life, is the best and worst thing that can come from having a gun. It has served its purpose in defending your life, if you use it for self-defense, I'm talking about. But you have had to take someone's life. You have ended a human life, that you have been in a situation where the decisions you've made in your life and the circumstances you found yourself in and the political machinations of the day have created a circumstance where your neighborhood, your experience, your travel through the countryside, your meeting at a diner in the middle of, outside of San Antonio or wherever this stuff goes down, or you have to fire back against a school shooter or somebody who walks into your church with a gun or anything. You have to take their life. Even in the best circumstance, that's the worst day of your life. Guns aren't toys. The best thing they can be is a violent tool that takes a life. And that's a shame. And the idea that this is a remedy we should have at large for the solving of problems, just across the board, points to a decay in society. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com. And don't forget to plug that URL in to your favorites, your bookmarks. We'll be back. Mm-hmm. Hi there, everybody. How you doing? Alrighty. Yes, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. And pass it around too. Remind your friends to like and subscribe. I think, what's our number at right now? We're over 7,000. Once we hit 10,000, I'm gonna have to do some sort of big fan giveaway or something like that. Give away some Lab Rat stuff and some QAF stuff and some, once we cross that 10,000 mark, should be good. Okay, so, hey, Denise. 7.2K. Well, there you go. I'm subscribed. Thank you, Hal Vickery. Oh, and by the way, thank you to Jamie White for the March 24th. And things will get even more stormy for Trump if he fires Mueller. I agree. Criminy. That's one of the things we're going to have to talk about after the break, is this, this idea that... Oh, hello? Do we have a caller on the line, Lady B? Is that... Maybe not. I don't know. Trying to fit these shots together. My desk is so crowded with all the cameras and stuff. I don't know what to do. Matt, are you there? Lady B, I hear Matt. Are you trying? But I hear just kind of phone noise coming my way. Unless that's what our connection sounds like, which would really frighten me. Nope, that's phone.
25 seconds.
Okay. Is Matt on with us? Lady B, I'm hearing phone noise my way. Can you hear me? There you go. Okay, thank you. Is he coming back on with us, or were you talking to him? Or is that somebody else?
I'm testing his phone.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little gnarly. I bet everybody's calling, and I bet there's a bunch of video being posted up.
Now back to the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So we are on Stormy Daniels' Eve right now. We're on Stormy Daniels' watch. Tomorrow night, CBS 60 Minutes, they're going to air the interview. The Trump White House has been completely unsuccessful in stopping it from going forward. There's and I can only imagine that, for the ratings that are going to come from that interview and for posterity, for history, the residuals alone would pay her, I guess, because here's the thing. She supposedly the Trump White House and Michael Cohen and his threatening nonsense, they've been threatening Stormy Daniels that they're going to, make her pay $20 million. $1 million for every instance where she's told it. Well, there are different instances that are of different value. You know what I mean? If she tweets about it, that costs her $1 million. if she goes on 60 Minutes, that costs her $1 million. But the 60 Minutes thing could get her a book deal, in which case that's still just $1 million, but the book might sell for $60 million. Or, or sell off the shelves. I mean, it will be a historical work of the future, God help us all, that people will want to go, back over this if they ever want to, because like I said, if you come see my stand-up, you'll see what I believe the future is like if we survive. But this idea that, people will at any point want to look back on this presidency and go, what went wrong? One of the things that they're going to find, is this Stormy Daniels book, which Trump was able to sue her for $1 million for putting out the whole book with all the details and every picture in it. And she was able to make, $80 million on it. That is entirely possible. So, again, I mean, it should be obvious that people should be able to put out NDAs. Innocent people get accused of stuff all the time. The cost of going to jail to fight back against stuff can be, politically and emotionally and financially draining. That should be an option that they have or whatever. But once you run for president and you threaten to sue everybody who's come out against you for sexual assault and you never do, then ultimately I think there's a reasonable value in the court going, I think your NDAs don't mean a damn because you seem to be able to go on and malign people after the fact. You broke the clause by mentioning that it exists. Michael Cohen broke the clause by admitting that the payment was made. He lied about paying it himself and never being reimbursed. That's complete crap. No one believes that. And here's the thing. If he is doing it, why? What, most of us are like, I mean, that's mind-boggling. Why would Michael Cohen take out a loan on his own house to pay $130,000 to a porn star who's alleged to sleep with Donald Trump, who, by the way, had just had the Access Hollywood tape, would probably brag about it unless it's Melania's prenup. That's another story entirely. And he thought he was going to lose, and she was already filing for divorce, and they were going through this. Now that they're in, if she decides to leave during the impeachment trial and everything comes crashing down, I mean, I can understand the unpack that goes on, it becomes a part of that. But the reality is, tomorrow's going to be nuts. I mean, you have to understand that there is you could very well see him firing Rod Rosenstein and firing Mueller tomorrow afternoon in an attempt to distract from this, which it wouldn't, by the way. In case anyone from the Trump White House is listening, or anybody who has the ear of, in case Brian Kilmeade can't figure out his new radio in his car or whatever, if they're going to go on Fox and Freaks, tomorrow morning for their Sunday show, if you're not praising Jesus, you have to be watching Fox special episode. If they could just remind him that all it will do is draw more attention to the fact that, oh, look at that. Crap. He actually fired Mueller to try and cover for what Stormy Daniels had, and that videotape exists. This seems to be a problem for most Republicans, but understand, videotape exists. If he fires them tomorrow and this becomes part of the news cycle, it will just be intermingled with, oh my God, this guy just fired the guy who was investigating him. And it was to cover the fact that this porn star has pictures of his junk or their junk or themselves or something or text messages or what have you, and she just released it on 60 Minutes. There's no point where you escape this stuff coming out by doing something even worse. None of that makes sense. I mean, that's just bananas. So the... Understand that this has been going on this entire time. Now, I want to play something for you real quick, and this is just a portion of this, but this is Donald Trump had the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at the White House, okay? And the Department of State released video of this. This is not something that somebody grabbed a chunk of this, from the press pool just to make the president look bad or look stupid. This is the whole chunk. This is how it starts. It's by the State Department. This is the release by the State Department. Hopefully the audio will be strong enough for you guys to hear it on here. But, the idea...
We've become very good friends over a fairly short period of time. I was in Saudi Arabia in May.
Yeah, we know.
And we are bringing back hundreds of billions of dollars into the United States.
Selling weapons that they're using in Yemen.
I understand that some of the things that have been approved and are currently under construction.
He
and
holds
will
up
be
a
delivered
placard,
to Saudi
like a
Arabia
menu.
very soon, and that's for their protection. But if you look in terms of dollars, $3 billion, $533 million.
He's pointing at pictures.
$525 million. That's peanuts for you. Should have increased it. $880 million. $645.
Dude, we do this all the time.
$6 billion. That's for frigates.
For frigates.
$889 million.
Frigates.
$63 million.
You want to say?
For
Should he?
various artillery. Some of the things.
Grabs
that
another
we're
placard.
Now working on. Thanks.
Somebody help him.
And that have been ordered and will shortly be started in construction and delivered. THAAD system, $13 billion. The C-130 airplanes, the Hercules, great plane, $3.8 billion. The Bradley vehicles.
Dude,
that's the tanks, $1.2 billion.
We sell this kind of stuff all the
P-8
time.
Poseidons, $1.4 billion.
By the way,
what it does is it really means many, many jobs. We're talking about over
same people are working on this
jobs
stuff. Haven't added
in the
any jobs.
United States. So we make the best equipment in the world. There's nobody even close. And Saudi Arabia is buying
There's a lot of people
a lot
close.
of this equipment, and a lot of people are at work making the equipment. Not only for us, because we, as you know, we're getting a $700 billion military proposal. And that's even a lot for you guys. But we're getting a $700 billion military plan this year, and 716 will be next year, $716 billion. So we really have a great friendship, a great relationship.
I don't know
really
Milkman
have to say
Norman
the
Arquette.
relationship was,
I don't know
to
what
put
he's
it mildly, very, very strained during the Obama administration.
Okay, so hold right there for a second. Understand, he's not talking to Netanyahu. He's not talking to Israel and selling them a bunch of weapons, which we still do. But he's not having a big, gathering in the White House to point out all the stuff we're selling to Israel, all the, because, by the way, Israel knows better than to let people know they have weapons. The Saudi family wants people to know how many arms they have. They're taking a Saddam approach. They need you to know that they have enough weaponry to wipe you out twice to all their locals. So they want that there. They've got rebels attacking. They're using them in Yemen. Their involvement in Syria, they're feeding, to some degree, Palestinian forces. They're mired in all this stuff. But can you imagine? I mean, I'm tired of saying this to some degree, but can you imagine if Obama had a sit down with the head of Saudi Arabia and went through a menu of, look what we're selling to these people. We're gonna lots of. I do a terrible Obama, but we're selling them all kinds of planes. We got bomber. Look, 12 attack helicopters. That's, like if he went through that, people would lose their minds. Everybody, I told you it was a Muslim. We got to take a break. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll talk about the bill when we come back. We will because this budget is so crazy, even Trump noticed. Yeah, we'll be back. This dude, seriously. Yes, thank you, Natalie. Right on. So, I picked the perfect time to do it, but I'm going to break a little news to you guys as far as I go. I'm going to be out for 2 shows, possibly 3, end of April, beginning of May, because I'm going to China to shoot a show there that is a travel show. Because they needed somebody to host who's funny and speaks Mandarin, and there's only one of those people. So, so I'm going to China to do this show. Currently, it's called Explore China. They might be changing the title. I'll let you guys know when it actually gets done. I picked a great time to do it in the middle of our, trade war and all this other stuff or whatever. But since the show is airing all over Europe too and all these other places, I think they're okay with us being there. We'll see, though. But it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm excited about the idea because as much as I have a problem with, we have our issues with everybody's governments in the world. You understand that the people are simply that, are people, and I think that's super important to remind people of that, of the co-humanity of people who have difficult governmental situations. We'll just say, America's dumping cheap comics on us. Thanks, Rocky Mountain Mike. Yeah, excuse me, cheap comics. He says. What kind of girl do you think I am? Too bad you can't do the show from behind that massive PRC firewall. I can't, Carl. That's right. Well, we might be able to find a way to at least do some, YouTube videos and stuff like that. If I can find a way to video conference, that might also be a solution that we could do it. So, can you say hello to the chat room on the show? Come on, Hal, make us famous. Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. I'll say hello in Chinese. So anyway, so that's coming up. Just thought I'd let you guys know. It'll be pretty fascinating. We're going. It's really about modern China, the show, as opposed to like your kind of standard like look how weird this place is. Travel show. So the idea is behind it is to show. More of the similarities, worldwide that China has, how modern it is, as opposed to, eating bugs in the countryside, which I'm for and I've done. That's fine. No one will ever know except the Chinese, right? But good. Can you fix the trade war? Yeah, I think I can. Although, Brad, I have my personal belief is that the trade war talk is all BS. I think President Xi and Trump there's a little bit of BS collaboration going on, and he's benefiting from them, the back and forth. They really don't care. $60 billion is a drop in the bucket compared to the money that they're making, and it allows them to leverage against Europe, and then they'll get it back anyways. So think of it as an 8-month strategy. Because that's how long the trade sanctions will probably last. They'll probably be undone by the election. But the idea is that you do it for a while, and then it makes China go, the United States is being mean to us. We want to work more closely with Canada and with the Europeans as far as buying soybeans and all this other stuff without tariffs. And because they're in the WTO, they'll be allowed to do that. It's a shell game. It's 3-card Monty. The Chinese will lose interest quickly and be hungry for something else. Easy, Chris. The collateral damages to the stock market, sort of. I mean, here's the bittersweet aspect of the stock market is that there's so many different varying products. There used to be 6 or 10 products available on the stock market. Now there's hundreds. And you can shuffle your money around so much that the stock market's probably got a worth of about 30,000. It's undervalued right now. But that number will continue to make people nervous, and you'll see this up and down, up and down, up and down. But it'll at least, as far as worth from the companies that are functioning right now, be about 30,000. If it takes a dive, it could drop to, from 30 to 20 pretty easily. And that would be very
seconds.
Okay. That would be.
And you got a couple of callers already.
Okay, cool.
3 or 4.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll get through the beginning of this segment, and then we'll start taking calls. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay, great.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
It'd be a good time for you guys to give up.
Let's go back in time, shall we? Let's travel back to the days of the beginning of the Affordable Care Act, when it made its way through umpteen committee hearings, used the structure built by the Mitt Romney and the Heritage Foundation's original idea of creating an individual mandate, and making sure that everybody joined in so that you could, spread out the cost of insurance over the widest group possible, and all the additions of the expansion of Medicare and Medicaid to protect people who were below the poverty line, and the dozens of meetings. And then you had Nancy Pelosi, coming out of a committee hearing where they were still working out the exact basis of the bill, and I guess the famous line was, you have to vote on it to find out what's in it, meaning the committee. We have to vote on it. We, the committee, have to vote on it to find out for you to find out what's in it, because they haven't decided all the parts, not the vote in the actual Congress, which is where that quote was taken out of context and meant to sound like. It's a 3,000-page bill. Nobody has read this thing. You'll remember that famously I read it. That's how I ended up on Stephanie Miller's show initially. Was because I'd actually read the darn thing. Wasn't that big a deal, by the way. It's most bills are double, if not triple, spaced in places. They have a lot of repeating sections, and some of them reference other stuff. However, 3,000-page bill, and everybody's like, this is too big. Now, granted, we are a country of 330 million people, plus people coming and going who get injured and ill while they're here sometimes. And you're dealing with how healthcare is administered to 330 million people, and the Republicans wanted it on a postcard. They wanted it on a 15-page bill. Why can't you just straighten this out? Why can't this just be a couple of pages? I mean, what's the big deal? Because there's variant diseases and experiences in healthcare as there are human beings, and their experience therein, from veterans who've lost limbs for one reason or another, to people who have gotten ill because of lifestyle illnesses but now have no control over their physical person and also need help whether or not they caused it themselves. And everything in between. And so, of course, the bill had to be 3,000 pages. For crying out loud, it's 3,000. I mean, it's healthcare for 330 million people with as many variant possibilities for achieving that. Like, for Christ's sake, this fear of complexity is insane. Now, that showed up again with the Republicans' own budget, which they put out, which is 2,232 pages. Again, that number doesn't bother me. You should be able to, in the bill, explain where the money is going and why. And sometimes, per allocation, the explanation of, we're going to give this money to this group, but it can't go to this and it must go to that. There's a bunch of that. That's a whole page right there. And that could attach to almost every aspect of the bill. So this idea that we should panic because of the size of the bill, just in the abstract, is dumb. It's the fact that, and usually what you have when you have a bill that big is that each committee presents their budgetary needs, and then it basically gets stacked together. So the Intelligence Committee and the Agricultural Committee and the Committee for Small Business and blah blah blah, all these different groups go, this is what we need to promote our certain thing, and you present that to the Budget Committee, and then the Budgetary Committee goes through and goes, okay, we have enough for that, but we don't have enough for this. What we're trying to do is keep it within these bounds. So we'll send it back to these committees, go, hey guys, find a way to shave out a certain amount, and then send it back to us. And that's your normal budgetary arc. It's not brain surgery, but it requires some thought and some focus. Okay? And when I'm president, that's how it will work. But in the meantime, and that is, by the way, how it runs when Democrats are in charge, without fail, and when they haven't had to fight Republicans and just get a continuing resolution through. That's how the normal budgetary process has worked under most adult presidents. In the case of the current Republicans who don't like to do their homework, who ran for office in government on a platform of "we hate government," which is like hiring a babysitter that hates children, and believes that corporal punishment is the only way to handle spilled milk. these guys put together a bill in committee that's 2,232 pages long that nobody actually read. Nobody read it. Nobody went through it. Not even the committees. That's the trick part. This whole thing about nobody reads the bill from end to end because the government is so big, nobody'd have time to do it. So that's why you have committees. That's why you have committee chairs. That's why those committee chairs act as a voice for the entire committee. That's why they present their internal budget for that thing, and you layer those together. You come out with a big overall cost, and then you try to minimize that cost by going back and okay. It can often be a 5-step process, but it's a process. That's not what happened with this bill. Knowing full well that the Republicans were not going to look over this bill in any ways, everybody started to stuff the bill. Stuff was going in committee, and they weren't even reviewing it in the committees because the Republicans didn't want to review it because they knew that what they were putting in was unpopular. So the Democrats found a way to put all kinds of stuff in because the Republicans didn't want to read out loud what they were doing. It's nuts. Okay, so this is Trump. Trump says, there are a lot of things I'm unhappy about in this bill. Denture slip. There are a lot of things we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There's some things that we should have in the bill. In a rambling, disjointed statement from the diplomatic reception room, he said, "This is a ridiculous situation. I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again." Guess what? He is. He's going to sign the next one too. He didn't read this. He wasn't ever going to read it. He was presented with a bill. His veto threat was completely false. This dude is a rubber stamp. When it's not for Putin directly, it's for the Republican Party. And that's why these guys line up around him. I mean, this is the Republican. Everybody goes, why in the hell, with all the obvious Russia interference and obviously his attention to the to this stuff? Why are the Republicans continuing to back this dude? What is it? This is it. And as much as Rand Paul can pitch a fit because he's following his father's brand. He's diced it up, made it modern by having his neighbor attack him, to make him, and beat him up and crack some of his ribs to make it seem like, he's a rough and tumble kind of guy, I suppose. But basically it's the same brand as his dad, be the lone vote, be an impotent voice in the corner, and then run for president on that and sell some books, and later get your own newsletter where you focus on black crime for some reason, like your Jeff Sessions with his first gin in 6 weeks. But this, within this, he goes, let's see, and this is, by the way, everybody from Ann Coulter to people who are described by the New York Times as ardent conservatives. That's what they call a Tea Party activist. Amy Kremer, a Tea Party activist who helped found Women for Trump, tweeted, "I'm done." No, you're not. No, you're not. This lady will continue to vote for him as long as she comes across, he comes across as anti-immigrant. He'll sign more bills like this. She'll continue to vote for him. She's not done. Neither is Ann Coulter. But just a bunch of noise. These people could not care less. But this bill passed. And the president. He literally, this signing of this bill, like they just had this tax bill when they were going to run on the tax bill. Remember that. They were going to run on the tax bill, and there was some concern in punditry and in the Democrats that they were going to be able to use this, even though it isn't helping the Trump voter and all that kind of stuff, that the idea that eventually it will, just give it time. And so these people would eventually vote for, Republicans this fall because they got that tax breakthrough, the biggest tax cut ever, which isn't the biggest tax cut ever. It's actually smaller than Obama's, but that doesn't matter. Trump's stuff is always the biggest, even when it isn't. See Stormy Daniels' CD tomorrow. And then they passed this $1.3 trillion spending bill, which fully funds the National Endowments for the Arts, puts over $700 billion this year, and then and I think it's over 10 years. I think he doesn't know what he's talking about. But basically $1.4 trillion in military spending, new military spending added to this, beyond what's, normal. And Trump says, nobody read it. It's only hours old. And again, most of the time, that's crap. Most of the time, that's BS the Republicans like to tell you. Nobody read this. Nobody read this. They did too. They went through every segment in committee. They went over every part of it. They sent it to the upper chamber. The upper chamber's committee heads went to the leadership and said, this is what's in it. Leadership goes to the body and says, this is what's in it. And then they go back and they go, we want less in it and we want more of this. They go back to committee. Committee has an argument about it. They go, no, we can't. They send it back. It's the same. Or they go, yes, we can. We'll fix this, and we send it back. That's what the committees are for. And then all of a sudden, the Republicans actually, I think they believed what they told about Obama. This is what I think. When we come back, we'll take some calls. But I think they believed that Obama ran the country as a dictator. I think they believed that he shoved legislation down their throat, even though there was multiple committee meetings about it and all the budgets were worked out and a lot of Republicans signed on in committee but then didn't vote for it once it hit the floor. I think they believe their own sales pitch. And now once they're in office, they're like, we can do that. We can just shove legislation down their throats. That's what he did, even though he didn't. That's the goofy part of this. We got to take a break. When we come back, your call, 773-763-9278. I looked very seriously at the veto, Trump told reporters. I was thinking about doing the veto, like it's a friggin' dance. The veto. Do the veto. Do the veto. With veto, veto. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Crack that veto. Doom, 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 boom. I don't want to get too Rocky Mountain Mike. I gotta watch myself. Sorry. High on their own spine, been there for 30 years. That's why you can't reason with them. I agree. I mean, I just think they're believing their own lie. Yeah. They shoved all these bills down my throat as my favorite Stormy Daniels movie. Ew. Of course they do, because they need a rationale to internally legitimize their belief that Obama was not a legitimate protest. Absolutely. Naomi Waldler is going to be a superstar, mark my words. Watching Trump try to dance would be like watching a salmon try to fly. You know what happens when they do? Salmon try to fly sometimes. Usually they end up eaten by a bear. By the way, I might just pull all his Facebook stuff because of the breach. Wow, there we go. Yeah, I basically ghosted mine. I only have mine because I want to, if my main page goes, if it collapses entirely, I'll let it go like MySpace. But I downloaded all my stuff, so I still have it. And then the page just kind of sits there. I don't use my personal one ever. It's basically a messaging app most people, use right now. It's basically like a clunky Snapchat for old people. And then Snapchat went and screwed it up. Didn't realize that they could have so easily turned Snapchat into a soft version of Facebook with more of a profile. The idea that you want to profile yourself for strangers is odd anyways. It's a little like inversion of Criminal Minds. Now ready to do working in a data mine. Wow, welcome back.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I can tell that was recorded because Lady B is still fighting her Her voice is still healing from screaming at the. I'm glad you're not at the march today, because we would never be able to speak to you again. You'd just be left to a squeak. You can speak a little though, right, Lady B? Nope.
Just a little.
Just a little. Awesome. Well, we have some callers, I think. So let me get to those. Who do we have first, Lady B?
Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Drexen from Chicago.
Who's it? Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. This is
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dredson. I'm on the air. Okay.
Yeah, you are. Go ahead.
Your talk earlier kind of made me change my mind on what I was going to call about when you were talking about the original intention of the
Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Just briefly off the top of my head, just to kind of piggyback on that is, during that time, what they meant by fighting off the tyrannical government, it was meant for a foreign invasion and not really your own government.
Right.
But it was the idea was that not have a standing army.
Yeah.
It was to have a militia-based army that was going to be like volunteer firemen.
Mm-hmm.
So that if someone did try to invade the country, you would just ring a bell and the entire, country became the military.
Right. Because they didn't have the money to run at that point, they didn't have the money to run their own military.
Your militia or whatever and say, listen, you have to capture these enemy vessels. And most of the Navy ships we had at the time were owned by private citizens and the arms and munitions.
Right.
So arguably one could say that as soon as they stopped letting people have access to the same amount of arms that the government had access to, that would be a violation of the Second Amendment. And usually that's when right-wing people, I bring this up to, they'll say that, people just can't have rockets and missiles. So that means you agree that there should be some restrictions on arms based on their capability.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why people shouldn't have, fully automatic AR-15s with bump stock.
Right.
It's the same line of reasoning.
Yeah. And, it to me, most of the argument that the NRA makes about weapons sounds like the same argument that child pornographers make about the First Amendment. Effectively, NRA is the NAMBLA of gun rights organizations. They're like, there should be no limitations on the Second Amendment. Is like saying there should be no limitations on the First Amendment. That child porn should be fine. You should be able to yell fire in a crowded theater. You should be able to, put anything on a sign or a picture and hold it up in public. You should, free expression literally means public nudity, public masturbation. Like that's the level of absurdity. When you start talking about, citizens need bump stocks, that's like saying to me, citizens need to be able to have a hard drive full of kiddie porn. It's the same. I mean, we regulate the First Amendment within the reasonable bounds of a genuine society for the safety and security, which is the entire point of having a gun in the first place. They always tell you, security, the safety and security of your fellow citizens. And yet, for some reason, this idea that the Second Amendment should not be limited in any way whatsoever, and they'll give you some role on bazookas and tanks, but because they can't afford one, but they can afford, they would have, every one of these guys would have an AK-47 with 2 60-round clips duct taped together if they were allowed to by the government, and the idea that they would use it for hunting is nonsense. So you're absolutely right. Everything that was written around the Second Amendment when it was written was the idea that the government couldn't afford to have a full military, and certainly not one on the level of that the British had at all times. So everybody was going to have to be like, dudes, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the protection of our brand new fledgling country. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. So nobody can roll in and start taking up guns so that one day the British can invade like they don't have guns anymore. We can just roll in. And that was then. Now, all these guys are calling for, what they mean by tyrannical government is they mean a democratically elected official. And it's madness. I appreciate the call. And I hope next time you can call in, you can tell me what your original thought was, and I don't stampede over it in the amount of time that I was on the air. So I appreciate it. Let's grab another call. Who do we have, Lady B?
We have Ivan from Chicago.
You're so adorable. Ivan, how are you?
Hal, you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
Yep, you're there. I'm there. You can go ahead.
America is supplying death and destruction to Saudi Arabia and everywhere else in
Right.
the Middle East.
It's about time.
Now, when I talk about AR with gun loans, the question they always bring up is, oh, what are you going to do when these mythological gangs of blacks come out to the suburbs, kick down your door, rape your wife and children, and steal all your food and gold you got stored up? You know, these sick clowns really believe a race war is coming.
Yeah, it's a paranoid mental illness. And right now, it'd be one thing if those were people who just, you know, like that.
I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, it's like that guy who wanted to run the whites only. I forget, it was in Oklahoma or Montana or something like that. A whites only town and all that stuff. There's this. It'd be one thing if it was like a fringe paranoid fantasy groups like that, like Jonestown or Waco, where they, you know, small pockets of human beings do this. But this is a driving mental illness that is pushing the Republican Party to vote in a certain way. This is not, none of this makes any baseline sense. And initially, you know, there's all kinds of reasonable, you know, explanations for why you would limit the amount of ammunition you can purchase unless you own a range and that's your job, letting people spend ammunition all the time. So you can't be a stockpiling mole inside the country, essentially. We have basically flipped the Second Amendment on its head. Initially, it was there to protect us against, you know, loyalists to the crown within our midst, destroying us from within, to the exact opposite. We should allow the loyalists to the crown to destroy us from within. We're like, let all the nutcases who want to bring down the government, stockpile as many guns and weapons, and then one day, when their meds are off, or they turn out to be 1 in 3 people who's paranoid when they smoke pot, or whatever their turning point is, or whether they've just seen enough YouTube videos that they decide, I'm tired of waiting. And they have a Manson moment. They have I'm tired of waiting for the race war. I'm going to help make it happen. Because understand, that's what the Manson family, the entire thing about the Manson family, that's what that was about. Charles Manson, and by the way, this idea of him as a mastermind or something special is stupid. But he decided that the message of Helter Skelter was that black people there's going to be a race war between white and black people are physically superior but intellectually inferior, so they're going to need white people to run them once they win the race war, and it was going to be Charlie Manson and his family. This is his fantasy. And he got this idea from listening to, wait for it, the White Album. Okay. Really? The White Album. Okay. So this is where he got his master plan from. He heard on the White Album that white people should run black people after black people win the race war. And then they got tired of sitting around. So they decided to jumpstart the race war themselves by murdering some people and writing words on the wall in blood that would make people think black people did it, hoping that people would be so angry that black people had killed Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger and all these others and done these horrible things, and they would start killing black people, and black people go, hey, we didn't do anything, and they would fight back, and then eventually they'd wipe each other out until it was just Charlie running a group of black people as his servants or some nonsense or whatever. But that's the beginning of that. And the Republicans used to blame the hippie movement for Manson and go, this is what happens when you let free love happen. Which is the exact opposite of what Charlie was. Charlie was a career criminal who usurped the free love movement and turned it into a racist monstrosity. And now we're codifying that in law. We're saying, yeah, you know what? The Mansons of the world should be able to stockpile weapons. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back with more of your calls. 773-763-9278. Ding.
This is WCPT's Art of the City. We let you know what's happening in the theater, music, and visual arts. Coming up on Saturday, March 24th from 8 to 10 p.m., Curate Chicago presents Thelonious Stokes' new exhibit, Gates and Fences, at Silent Funny, 4106 West Chicago Avenue. In an intimate performance featuring singer, songwriter, actress Kiara Lanier of TV's The Shy, Stokes juxtaposes family safety and mass incarceration. Gates and Fences
Lady B, can you
elucidates the
cut
notion
the
of
ads my way?
transformational rehabilitation utilizing art, music, and the muses of Stokes and Lanier.
Lady
Both
B.
performers are Southside Chicago natives and utilize the performance medium to provide a platform to inspire
There you go.
others. The Raw Warehouse will be transformed into a landscape of American civilization by
I can't hear you over
systematic
the ads,
injustice.
though.
The three-part performance will
I know
culminate
you're
with
talking,
Stokes'
but I
call to
can't hear what you're
action,
saying.
urging the audience to support organizations committed to social justice and incarceration reform. For more information, go to bit.ly/gatesandfences.
When I get that call
no, I still hear
from a
the ads.
stranger, a union official, a friend, or another lawyer letting me know that tragedy has struck a family who is now in need of professional legal services, it pains me to think.
Now it's good. All right.
Because of the phones.
Yeah.
So hopefully now it should be working.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if ever in the future where I'm like, I can hear you, go ahead. Always feel free to jump on, because I know on your end of the board you can talk to the caller. So if you just push the button and go, he can hear you, go ahead. I don't mind you overlapping with me in that situation, because I can hear them. So I'll, me, I'll bulldoze anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But it should be fine now since I reset it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you still got Bob from Indiana and Dave from Sacramento.
Okay, great. Gathering some stuff up real quick. Welcome back. Oh hey. Lady B, I'm getting an echo. Sounds good. Yeah, it's a heavy echo. We'll try and fix this. So in the meantime, I'll ditch this out while I'm trying to fix this at the same time. Hopefully you can fix that, Lady B. I'm getting a heavy echo. Yep, still there. So Trump's while this is all going on, while we're understanding the March for Life is going on, these kids, the fact that this is happening, it is a powerful movement, but the cost of what it took to get us here, Pulse, Sandy Hook, Vegas, all the shootings in between, Charlottesville, the a friggin' church in Texas running into all these situations. That's good. It's gone. Thank you, Lady B. In all these circumstances, nothing was done. I mean, effectively, what we're seeing today is not just the result of the Parkland shootings, but a buildup over time of this kind of stuff. That it reached a boiling point with Parkland because in such succession, and and probably, I would even say that Obama, in showing emotion around Sandy Hook, and the feeling that we had a president that understood, took some of the pressure off of, the Republican lawmakers who ran interference for against gun laws for the NRA, because you felt like, well, somebody cares. But because Trump is such a monster about this stuff and could not really care less, I think that's part of what the problem is. And even more than Trump, really, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. I mean, Trump, is arguably, had moments of this is terrible. But every time Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell speak, you can just smell money coming off them. Like, they just couldn't care less. It's one of these, they literally have this weird shrug off, like, well, it's the price of doing business in a democracy. Second Amendment is what it is. You can't change any part of it. Price of doing business. Plus, I'm getting all this Russian money through NRA. So why would I want to dry up that spigot? But all during this part, I want to remind you that the State Department okayed this just this week alone. So Dowd steps down, Trump hires and then possibly fires a TV lawyer and his wife to run, who believe that, in deep state Alex Jones level conspiracies, to be his replacement lawyer. Had one meeting with the guy, and then it looks like the guy's not going to stay on the team. Dowd's gone, though. The State Department approved a $670 million arms deal with Saudi Arabia right away. Trump, by the way, I guess technically, this came out today, by the way, on the day of the March for Life. Okay, March for Our Lives. Trump approves new limits on transgender troops in the military. The policy recommendation that President Trump approved flatly states that transgender persons who require or have undergone gender transition are disqualified from military service. But it also largely gives the Pentagon the ability to make exceptions where it sees fit. So basically, this is just a puff, and this is an anti-trans puff piece that the president put out for certain donors, evangelical supporters, and the like, just to make them feel better about him being hard on transgender people in the military, and the idea that our tax dollars should not pay for people to have have transition surgeries or, transition therapies in any form. But it also largely gives the Pentagon the ability to make exceptions where it sees fit. So, just like his last, his little tweet storm, this was put out, had basically the same effect. All he did was, he didn't wait for the court to undermine his stupid idea. He just did it himself. I'll just say what I want, but then I'll also give enough leeway where it really will not make a difference. So basically, I'm not quite sure who wouldn't fall under this. Who the military would take as a soldier or as a tech advisor or any other person who had transitioned or was in the process of transitioning, and that their VA benefits or their VA ability might go towards helping their transition either through their hormone therapies or surgery itself. But in giving the Pentagon the ability to make exceptions where it sees fit, well, that's just everywhere. If they'll take you, then you obviously bring enough value. So basically, this is just an impotent flailing. It is essentially just words, but meant to undermine the value of trans people in the country. Like, it's a disgusting photo op, essentially, that the president puts out on a Saturday. Like, releasing the statement, transgender troops who are currently in the United States military may remain in the ranks, the White House said late Friday, but the Pentagon could require them to serve according to their gender at birth. The policy recommendation that President Trump approved flatly states, and by the way, this is interesting too, the policy recommendation that President Trump approved flatly states that the transgender persons who have undergone gender transition are disqualified from military service. So the idea that this bill itself, where it came from, hard to say. Because again, it's a policy recommendation that he approved. Was this put together by Mad Dog Mattis and that crowd? Was it it certainly wasn't part of the Pentagon's program, because when they looked into it, they didn't have a problem. This policy recommendation could literally have come from Steve Ducey, for all we know. So it's an absurdity. So that in and of itself, that just happened last night, by the way. This is amongst all this other stuff. Keep in mind also, Trump's legal issues with the porn star, the Celebrity Apprentice contestant, and his own and the playmate, all started to come to a head this week. People are arguing that legally his biggest political problems could come from those particular issues. So in and amongst all this stuff, in and amongst the fact that just happening, and Stormy Daniels' speech is happening tomorrow. By the way, where's Trump right now while the March for Our Lives is happening? Where is he? He's golfing. That's right. He's golfing. Because that's what matters to this man. And by the way, thank you, Milkman Norman, our chat. Jamie and Hal Vickery for your super chats. Bless you. Thank you very much. Let's take another call. 773-763-9278. Who do we have, Lady B?
We have Dave from...
Hey, Dave. Dave, you there?
Hi, Dave. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead.
And you turn down your radio
right,
if
Here's my point. I bet you the politicians are running scared right now with those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they pretty much have they're running shirtless with their pants caught down, I'll tell you that much, when it comes to the
disgusting picture.
Fact that these politicians are watching this march right now on TV, thinking that, well, we won't do anything until we find out what the size amount of people that showed up for this rally. They're the biggest hypocrites. So they're figuring that, something, if they're going to say, well, there was a little amount of people, they're going to be going on CNN, there wasn't that many people, and, this kind of stuff and so forth. And then they find out the turnout is so big. What's their excuse now? I tell you right now, they're running scared. And as far as Rubio's concerned, you might as well just say goodbye to that guy, because that guy is gone. And this guy is gonna kiss butt. All these politicians that did not show up for this rally, that they're still taking money for the NRA, are going to try to do everything they can to kiss butt to these kids who are going to be the next generation, that are the voters who are going to vote them out, are basically going to say, no, you're all gone.
Right.
All of you are gone. And I feel sorry for you, because what's going to happen, there's going to be some new, fresh blood in that Congress. I guarantee you, in the midterm, because we're not going to forget about this until the midterm. And they're going to be strong. They're going to be more active. They're going to be getting petitions.
They're going to push their parents.
They're going to get people making sure that
they've got older brothers, older. That's right.
So what they're made of.
Absolutely. I'm having a little bit of interference, so I appreciate the call. I'm gonna let you go, but I want to and we got to take a break. When we come back, I think the Republicans see the writing on the wall, but I don't think they're afraid of the Parkland kids. I think they're afraid of Donald Trump, and I'll explain when we come back. This is the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Bolton when we come back. Not like I'm so burning time right now. Hold on 1 second, kids. Be right back. Mm-hmm. No one can tell us we're wrong. Man, my voice got burned out last weekend doing stand-up. Carl, you guys got the full show. Ginger! You need a longer show in the Trump era. I fear this craziness would never allow you time for anything else. Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. This could be a, Trump watch 24/7 until impeachment. Like, we're just going to stay on the air. Just all smelly, haven't showered. Yeah, I wish these people knew, quite frankly, I wish it was because of the Parkland and the shootings and all that kind of stuff. But there's another reason why the Republicans understand that the Dems are going to take the House and more than likely now the Senate. Yeah, that's right, Al Vickery. It'd be like, please, we need your donations. Just get the thermometer up to here so we could just pay for the impeachment ourselves.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back to the show. So, I have a reason to believe that the Republicans are running scared. They are afraid. They are concerned about this election cycle. And I wish it was because of the Parkland kids and the march. I wish it was because of women and, the Me Too movement and Time's Up finally putting pressure on the halls of power so that women are not mistreated in the workplace, so that they are given equal voice, that their ideas aren't shut down. I wish that's why the Democrats or the Republicans were nervous that the Democrats were going to take the House and the Senate. But that's not why. The Republicans are not nervous because of these forces of good that they have been opposing and that they are confronted with. The Republicans are afraid because of their own internal cancerous growth in the form of Donald Trump's total lack of total inseriousness when it comes to running the office of president. And like I said, I think if people remember when John McCain brought on Sarah Palin, a lot of liberals in about a half an hour, for about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, were like, "Oh damn, did he just win the race? Did he just did he just figure out our Achilles heel? Did he bring on the most popular governor in the country, who's a woman, and he put someone on his ticket. She's a heartbeat away from the presidency at his age, and it's a serious thing. He must really believe in her. And oh my God, did they put a woman in that position that was, serious enough to control it? Like, there was excuse me. Wow. I'm literally ill whenever someone brings up Sarah Palin. I better not say her full name again. I'll sneeze again. Excuse me. And then 45 minutes where you're like, oh no, she's a dunce. This is hilarious, and this is just posturing. He doesn't believe in her. She was forced on him. All that stuff. So, the same thing was true, I think, of the bill, of the tax bill. That there was a little bit of like Democrats and even people on MSNBC were like, Chris Matthews was saying, did he find an end run around all this Democratic pushback? Did he give a tax break right at the right time that even if it doesn't service the people he says it's going to service, is it a good enough of a PR move that and thank you, chat room, for saying Gesundheit and bless you. I appreciate it. Did he figure this out? Did he slip out of this again with this tax break? Is this going to be enough? They're going to run on this tax break all the way up, and everything else that anybody else does about any of the other crap that he's doing, the Republicans will so love his tax break that he's bulletproof now until elections cycle. And all the Republicans have to do is cling to his bosom, heave as they cleave to his bosom, and they'll be all right. They'll make it. They're going to become, they're going to control things. This is really, this was a real fear. And then Trump started to burn down his own brand new structure. Like he was like, I've made it. Look, I fixed this whole thing. Let's torch the whole thing. He's like literally more like the Joker. Like I managed to rob all this money, but I'm just going to burn it. And that's effectively what he did by signing the $1.3 trillion spending bill. Because the biggest reactions about it, the biggest reaction about this was from conservatives. This is from Crooks and Liars, but it's linked to all their tweets or whatever. Trump had tweeted earlier today he was considering vetoing for the bill over its lack of funding for the border wall. That was his big hangup. Not adding $1 trillion worth of debt, not completely bloating it at every corner, but that it didn't pay for the wall. And it was a slap in his face. They gave him $1.6 billion for his little samples and to repair parts of the fence. By the way, that's normal. That's a normal amount that they pay for border security wall measures, for fence measures during parts of it. Like, that's nothing. That's not even an addition. It's for him to build some more concrete samples. It's a goof. And he started to wake up to that. But, the Democrats put in $1.6 billion for that. And a lot of Republicans who don't like him, quite frankly, too. And at the signing ceremony, Trump said he thought about vetoing the bill, but ultimately deemed the legislation necessary to create, quote, by far the strongest military we've ever had. Many conservatives on Twitter said passage of the bill was a win for Democrats. Conservative provocateur Ann Coulter. These are the Republicans. These are hardcore supporters. These are the people who drive the Tea Party voter. Congratulations, President Schumer, was the first thing that Ann Coulter said. The next thing she did was quote Trump saying, I will never sign another bill like this again. She said, yeah, because you'll be impeached. Laura Ingraham said, missed opportunity by Donald Trump by signing the spending bill. If he loses the House, Dems will go straight to impeachment. And again, she's like, this is her saying, how also the new wall budget prohibits Trump from building a new wall. That's right. He can't add parts to it. He can just build his little samples and patch the holes in it because it's to a specific structure. Oh, my God. So still in shock over this, and this is T. Valerio, still in shock over the signing of the omnibus bill. WTF, I feel like all the Hillary supporters after she lost her rigged election. Okay, maybe not that insane. Worst move ever. Government Mike Huckabee. I hope if I'm ever held hostage that the GOP won't be negotiating for my release. Given their failure with this BS spending orgy, they would pay the terrorists more than they demanded and then shoot me themselves. God help us. Hashtag defund Planned Parenthood. Justin Amash wrote, national security and military funding are the excuses Republican elected officials have used for decades to support massive spending bills and bigger government. These people are pissed. And this bill is done. And this erases, by the way, this adds to the deficit because of the tax cuts. Money will need to be borrowed to pay for all this stuff. And if the Republicans don't want to raise the debt limit when they passed this bill, when he signed this bill, when they ran the House and the Senate during this, I mean, this is totally nuts. This bill is big by the fantasy that Republicans have about Democrats' standards, which is saying a lot. We got time for one more call, I think, so we can probably grab that. Do we have another call, Lady B? I started down my road and I lost him. Somebody there? Lady B?
No, there's no more calls.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. So it's just us. Excellent. I just didn't want to get off the hour. I thought I'd gotten everybody, but I wasn't sure. I lost count when I was doing all this ridiculous math. But understand that all the value that Republicans got from passing their tax bill, which, by the way, doesn't help Trump voters, helps corporations, makes permanent tax cuts for corporations and temporary tax cuts for individuals, shows exactly where their priorities are over everybody else. Their total lack of action on, just kind of like the normal actions of government, just not running government as you should, stacked on top of the fact that most of them are bought and paid for by the NRA, that they, line up behind the NRA in spite of this fact. And by the way, there are ways to protect the Second Amendment that don't involve the NRA at all. So, I mean, this is all throughout this. The Republicans have managed to dodge, no pun intended, all these bullets because they had, because the president was popular with his base, because people supported what he was doing, and in the abstract, people are like, well, we do need to protect our borders more. Well, we do need to limit immigration more. Well, we do need, having all this kind of playing in that, like he's saying this big, but the Republican House and the Senate will kind of water it down, and you need to kind of make these big shows, and eventually it will get to a reasonable place through the regular legislative process. When it hasn't been the case at all, when the Republicans have been so terrified of the Trump voter that they basically hand over these bills that are exactly what he asked for. And by the way, happy birthday to Electric Outcast in our chat room, by the way, to Seth, because everybody's wishing him happy birthday right now. I just want to jump in there. But that the Republicans were protected by this tax bill, this, what we like to call it a tax cut, even though my people tell me don't say cut because everybody hates the word cut. Just call it reform because it's a softer word, but it's got no, testosterone like cut. So I'm going to say cut. And whatever happened, whatever benefit they got from that tax bill is dead as of last night. And the Republicans won't care about gun reform. If they passed some of these bills and banned bump stocks, that's a very popular measure. They won't care. But last night's budget is a big freak out point. And Democrats should be doing a victory lap. We'll talk about it in the after show. Thank you guys for listening today. Thank you, Lady B. Thanks to Matt Cummings for calling in from the march. Keep marching, everybody. We all believe in you. Much love to the Parkland kids. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Lady B. You're wonderful. Thanks for locking in there early and helping me work through it. It made everything run much smoother. Still had to reset the board for phone calls. We'll have to find a way to test that. I'll call in on my own phone and see if I can hear myself in a loop or have somebody call in as a test. That'll be
most transgendered people from enlisting in the armed
forces. I already talked about that, ma'am.
The ACLU says it effectively.
So, hi, chat room. Holy smokes. Right on. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, it's much easier when I can work out the stuff beforehand, and Lady B and I were able to at least jump online and fix some of that stuff. I still can't figure out what the hell's wrong with Wirecast, but we'll be back to that soon or whatever. I don't mind Mimo Live, which is the software that you guys got me that I greatly appreciate. That's what I used some of the Super Chat funds to get, and I super appreciate it. It's great that it works. As well as it does. It's just not as intuitive as I'm used to. So I need to sit down and watch all their get used to it videos or finally hire a producer. That's phase 2 though. We don't quite make enough on the show to make that happen. But thanks for joining in today. We got a bunch of people who went to the marches and a bunch of people who are going to the marches. I think Carl's going to the one in Santa Ana at 2:00, so they're probably going to have to leave fairly soon, Carl. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get to there. Actually, it shouldn't be too long, but it depends on all the traffic and whatnot. Hold on. I think, look at that. Perfect time. Hi. My girl's here. Johnny B is not my producer. Johnny is our audio person, technically. He's supposed to gather audio for us, but more often it just ends up with us just talking. And he can only be here every other week. I'm only about 30 minutes from Anaheim. I can stick around. Well, nice. Okay. Phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3, probably. We've seen the same things at the same time throughout our lives. Cool. The marches are all over the world too. Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, it's not that surprising to have anti-gun marches in other countries because they've already got their laws in place. They know the benefits of them. You know, and again, none of these countries, like Brexit was basically the effect of like really right-wing people. Oh, did you not get in? Hold on. I did. Okay. I hit 9. Here it goes. It won't make much of a noise. Let's see. Thanks, Jawad. I appreciate it. Hey, your China show sounds an awful lot like the super popular Lao Y86, Serpent's Eye, and their ADV channel produced 2 shows, Conquering Southern China and Conquering. Yeah, Mary, I've seen those. I watched all their stuff, and I like Serpent ZA as the Canadians call them, and Lao Y86. I watched their stuff. They're very bite-size, sort of oriented towards YouTube-ish stuff. So, let's see. Hold on. I'm going to be able to... I think she should be able to get in. Oh. Really? Okay. Let's see. But yeah, I have watched all those. Hold on. I got to open a door. Hold on. Yeah, I tried to open it myself, but the batteries are dead on the app, so I gotta fix. Let's see. Somebody dying from gun violence is still really shocking here in Canada, Hal, even if it is by the police. Yeah, and this is the running thing. Everybody says hi, by the way. They're saying hi, Summer. Natalie says hi. Open the pod bay doors, right. I'm sorry, I can't do that, Carl. One of the big things is, like, one of the examples that should be run by all these guys is both, Brexit and Russia. So these guys are big fans of how Putin runs his country. And at the same time, he has very draconian gun laws. They're also fans of Brexit. They're fans of the right-wingers who are running England currently. That all happened without a shot fired. Actually, that's not true. Technically, somebody shot one of the people who was running. But it was a right-winger who shot a woman who was running for office. But hi. I always see a second later after you over my shoulder. Oh, yeah, right. So the kids today, they're always on their phone. Look at this.
I'm tipping my Uber driver.
I know. That's very nice. I'm kidding. Sensitive. But yeah, so like Brexit, all these. Look at that. Hi, Summer. Summertime. Hi, yay, summer. Hi, summer. Hi. So, Hal, she's right behind you. The text is coming from inside the house, right? So the idea, though, is that all these countries. Oh, thank you, Donna. That's really awesome. Yeah, welcome back. Great to hear your voice, Hal. Well, thank you, Donna. That's awesome. Yeah, hooray. Matt Lau Y86 is from around Buffalo, New York, and Serpent's Eye. Yeah, Matt Lau Y86 is actually from Canada. He's Canadian. Mary. And yeah, Serpent ZA is from South Africa. And so his stuff on racism is really fascinating. His stuff on like Chinese, the experience of Chinese racism. Oh, Carl wants to know how Chud is, by the way.
Yeah.
She's lovely. She's just Chud. Yeah. She's super Chud. They're both married to Chinese women, and they're both very funny. I think Serpent ZA he was married or in a long relationship with one. Yeah, he got married and then divorced and then married again. He's got 2 Chinese wives since he's been there for 11 years or something like that. But Lao Wai's just had the same one the entire time. Hi, Maddie from Michigan. I'm not ticklish. It's just nice. I'm like, yeah, that's me purring. This is my Chud impersonation, so you can know what it's like. It's basically the same thing, except I'd be going. She always looks like, leave me alone. It's a selfie attack at the march right now with Ariana Grande. Oh, yeah. Paul McCartney's at the New York march. Yeah, Sea Milk is Lao Wai. That's right. Which I didn't understand why he kept calling him Sea Milk for the longest time. It's so weird. Oops, we got a little jagged. But yeah, so you need a China nickname. Well, I have a Chinese name, so I'll just use that. I'm Huo Guanghao. That's I'm going to use my real name. That's way cooler than having some sort of Lao Wai just means foreigner, basically. Like that's the same thing as calling yourself Waigua Ren, which is what he says people call him all the time. She left, and then I turn around. You're still scratching my back when I'm looking at the screen. This is such a delay. Our cat Ariel discovered she likes having a sticky roller run up and down her back. You can have Summer try that on you. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah. Here, let me Jawad, since you want to see it, I'll show it to you real quick. Hold on. Oh, wow. Thanks, Julie. For Summer, give her a tip because she's so nice. Look at that. Julie tipped your Uber driver. Hold on. Yeah. I'm coming. Post show. Here you go. There it is. Yeah, so Matt from... just to be cool, just to be the nicest guy ever. Honestly, it kind of makes me feel like Prince in Purple Rain, and that would make him Apollonia, which is awkward. It plays beautifully. Everybody knows that the ESP I play is white, and I really love it. He calls this the Snowfall. That's the, you can see the headstock there where you can read what it says. It's got a nice weight to it. It's got a nice feel. I got to put some real gentleman strings on it. Because it's got like all these guys, they play all these light strings. It drives me crazy, but it sounds terrific. I'll be doing the strap pegs on it because I use the Schaller strap pegs, so all my guitar straps, like I don't have any loose guitar straps that'll just attach to this, so I can't do my moving around and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, looks like the type of guitar you'd play at a heavy metal wedding. That's exactly right. So yeah, so we'll see. I'm looking for it. Obviously, it'll be a stormy night tomorrow, no matter what the weather is. It's definitely a beast, and it's heavy. It's got nice weight to it, it's beautifully crafted. I like it a lot. Fret markers on the bass. Thank you, Carl. Really nice. It's almost a set of strings because that's what a set of strings for these guys cost. I appreciate that. This is. Anyway, so this was Matt from Trivium sent me this and could not have been nicer. That guy is super sweet. Yeah, I'm interested in my guitar, as you see. Hell, somebody give that guitar to Chris Stapleton. All right, go Carl. Yeah, thank you, Carl. No more stomach. Yeah, it's gonna be stormy inside the White House tomorrow. That's for damn sure. Anyways, obviously my girl's here, so I got to run. Not a normal long post show today. As it is. I am this week, the 31st, I'm performing at the Rock Against MS show. I'm hosting it, and I think my band will be playing a couple songs. And thanks, Sonny. That's great. It's paint, not pigment. Are you high? But yeah. So anyway, so thank you guys so much. Today's show is pretty darn solid. Again, it helps when I can hook up to Lady B early and get all the stuff out of the way. And I think we'll be going up here. So right, who's that? Can't tell. I got it. Right. Who's that? Yes. All right. I will send the extra patches out soon. Summer's going to be in charge of that, so we'll talk about that today, and make sure that any of that stuff. Do an ending with some guitar jams. I have to set up an amp in here because it's a totally different wiring thing for my studio part. One thing about Trump, you make sure there's never a dearth of material to discuss. That's totally true, Carl. I can't wait for me to have to mine stuff to talk about on the show again. I'm looking forward to it. So anyways, you guys take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I will see you next time. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much to everybody who gave in the super chat today. Really sweet. It means a lot. Bless you. Each of you, hold on one second. Hal Vickery and Jamie White and and let's skip this one down. And Natalie and Milkman Norm and Denise and Brad and Donna and Julie and Carl. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Hail Hydra, go away. Right. Peace. See you, Doc. We'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. Okay, bye.